Well, thank you for taking the time to join us here. One of the areas that I want to drop back on is step back on for a second is one of the most important responsibilities the Board of Regents has is the selection of a president, and it's also one of the most difficult choices and processes to make. And as we went through this process this spring, I think it's really incumbent to first thank the full search committee. We had 21 members. There were 7 faculty members. There's Dr. Robillard chaired it. Dean Guardiola is on it. So there were 9 representatives of the university that participated in that process, as well as members of the community, of the alumni, of the foundation, and 3 regents. And so as we went through that process, there were over 80 candidates that applied. There were 12 candidates that were interviewed in Chicago, and there were 4 that came forward to campus. And they were candidates of diverse skills and diverse leadership styles. And so we feel, and we want, as a board, we want to thank the search committee for a terrific job that they did. These searches are never easy, and in particular when we do a search that has a public component of it. A number of universities across the country have gone to private, confidential searches. We opted not to do that because we know that that openness and transparency is important to Iowans, that we follow that as public university, and we've done that. And as we made the selection of president, I think an overwhelming consistency amongst the board, and it was a tough decision to make, was that we really believe we have a great university, but we want to see that opportunity become larger and greater and going forward. And the improvement of those programs and all that makes up a great research university called the University of Iowa. And so what we wanted to do and what we ended up with is someone who has spent his life providing leadership in organizations that he's been a part of. In terms of collaboration, in terms of team building, in terms of reaching out to disparate groups and involving them, and developing a strategic plan on how you can get better, how you can go from great to greater, and how you can be successful by working together collaboratively. The board saw in that leadership skills, which was exhibited after being in the private sector, to teaching at Harvard Business School leadership classes. They revolve around those very same issues in the academic world and training young people to have a life inspired by education and education after that. So it's with great pleasure again that I introduce the 21st president of the University of Iowa, Bruce Harreld.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you. Thanks to all of you. Particularly, I thank the search committee, as well as obviously the Board of Regents. And I appreciate all of you being here today. I wholeheartedly agree with Bruce. This is a great institution. But as I said to a number of faculty and students in the community the other day, great institutions don't stay where they are. They either go up or go down. And I think we have all the opportunity in the world here to go from great to greater. And it's going to take a lot of work. I will be the first to admit that my unusual background requires a lot of help, a lot of coaching. And I'm going to turn to a lot of the people that were highly critical and really tough on me the other day and ask them if they would be really great mentors and teachers. And I suspect and hope all of them will. And I know you have a lot of questions of what I'm going to do, right? And that basically is what I'm going to do at the outset. I'm going to listen, I'm going to learn, and it's all towards the notion of reinvesting in our core and moving ourselves from great to greater. With that, who's next?
We would be happy to take any questions that the press would have. No, I don't. And I think when you look around the country, the complexity of the job of president has resulted in a number of places moving to more non-traditional candidates, and there's still obviously a number of traditional candidates. But I think in terms of the positive outcomes of this is asking ourselves, does this person have the ability to be collaborative? Does he have the ability to communicate well with all stakeholders across the state, across the country? And do we have the ability to take this university to a higher level with that new president? And so those were the factors we looked in. Clearly, the majority of the candidates we interviewed had not been president before. So all those are risks for anyone at this kind of scale of a university. But we looked for more the opportunity to make the place an even better place.
Does this send a signal that you're hoping the university acts more like a business, operates more like a business than a traditional?
No, it doesn't. It sends the message that how do we improve the quality of programs and outcomes for students in a continued greater way? Because we also believe that the status quo isn't acceptable, that there are great people at this university, and as we continue to focus on how do we provide the resources, how do we strategically plan, how does the board support that strategic plan to move the university forward, I think all those factors go into it.
What about the status quo is unacceptable?
Well, I think what's unacceptable about it is the status quo never stays the same. I think we all know if you don't continue to improve and learn in life, you probably step backwards. And universities are great examples of the ones that continue to change and innovate and focus on how they not just get better, but also how we have accessibility and affordability long term. You know, the clear mission of the public university is to make sure we maintain that status and we don't live with the status quo as we look at a variety of different things, range from student debt to the improvement of a variety of those programs. So our approach would be, things certainly can get better, and we have great people here, and we want that view. Right in the back.
What about him made him the best fit for the university?
Well, I think it's what I said earlier. His life history of collaboration, of bringing organizations and teams together, of leadership skills that are principled and value input. Shared governance is extremely important to the board, and I'll let Mr. Harreld speak to that. But we saw in that he's good at working with teams and will collaborate and bring the university together in the long term to be a better place.
Mr. President, you said the other in the forum, asked why did you, Mr. Harreld, why did you take this job? You said you think it can make a difference. What do you see as the first step in doing that as you take over here? What are the first items that you see on your plate to make a difference?
Thank you. Several things. First of all, throughout the day on Tuesday, I met with all various constituencies. I heard a number of issues. And I need to go right back to those constituencies and get some sense of order of magnitude and importance and work with them to get them working on improving a number of issues they raised. So I'll be reaching out starting today on that. Secondly, there was, I'm sure we all noticed, a little bit of tension on Tuesday. And I think that's fair. But now we need to move on. And part of that is I need to reach out to the people who legitimately think I'm not qualified or have gaps and say, will you help me? And how can I help you? So I'll be working on both of those. And as I'm reaching out, I will be listening, learning, and thinking myself. I've already made it fairly clear, but it's too high, that the core of teaching and mentoring and research of where I think is where the big payoff is for us. And so now my question is, A, do you agree to various members of the community? And secondly, help me fill in the very specific things we need to jointly work on. And so that'll be the next 30 to 60 days. Thank you.
Obviously, there was the attention that you both mentioned. How important do you think faculty buy-in is, I mean, in terms of getting everybody on board?
I think it's pretty doggone important, which is because, in fact, without faculty, an institution like this, to a large extent, doesn't exist. We are here to teach. We are here to learn and explore new areas. And that is right in the wheelhouse of what faculty do and do very, very well. And so I need to listen, learn. And what I'm particularly interested in is, once we get beyond this tension, is, you know, they, I think, already know. I heard in a number of discussions in some of the town hall meetings they had with myself as well as other candidates, gaps along the way. And so I want to get them also to say, rethink those gaps. Are those the first places to start? How can I help? So this notion of shared governance and the faculty's role in that process is absolutely critical. In fact, to the extent I may segue back to the very first question, which is, yes, I may be a risk, but when you have a healthy shared governance process at the core with the faculty and someone willing to collaborate, I think the risk of hiring someone like me is much lower. And so shared governance makes these types of risks, in my opinion, looking across other institutions have done it, a lot smoother. If in fact we beat heads, which I doubt very seriously we will, then you have problems. But I'm not looking for a fight. What I'm looking for is to make this institution better, and the faculty are the key role in that process. Yes, ma'am.
Hi. Along those same lines, when it comes to, as people could call it a controversial hire, how do you plan to not make the conversation about the fact that you were hired and instead turn it around into what you want to do and how to make this university better?
Well, hopefully by reaching out. I mean, there will clearly, when reaching out to small groups and various individuals, which I'll do very, very quickly here, and a lot of the people on notice here, you'll see me coming to you. I don't want you coming to me. I want to see meet in your environment and get to know your background, your issues. As I do that, I think and hope, at least in my past, that has done an awful lot to start filling in this, I'm not the issue, we are the issue, what are we working on? And so I think that'll remove, but then the key piece is beyond that. We need to clearly identify the things in the next 30, 60 days that we can do quickly together to get things moving. And again, I heard a lot of issues that have popped up. My question back to the community is, okay, let's prioritize them and let's figure out which ones we're going to work on right now. And some we'll put away, but because you can't work on everything all at once. And so I think putting people to work as well as just reaching out is hopefully going to take me out of the process, take me off the front pages, so to speak. Yes?
So, Mr. Harreld, I've heard a couple times you want the university to go from great to greater. Is there anything as you were an outsider, that you see the University of Iowa needs to do that right now?
Yeah, I saw some. I heard a lot again. I think the issue of who's teaching, and I heard, I don't have the data. I hear, and I got to be careful here that I think the devil's always in the details of these things, but I heard a number of people say we don't have nearly enough senior faculty members teaching one anymore. On the other hand, I suspect if I ask the senior members of the faculty, they're going to say, oh, but that's really consuming really important research on the other side. I think we should be talking about that maybe one size metric doesn't fit all faculty members, and some are great teachers and some are in the faculty, and that may give us some freedom. But this issue of great liberal arts education, I think, have a balance of who's doing the teaching. So that's one issue. I think there's a lot going on in higher education right now of different learning models, not just the classic in the classroom, project-based, hybrid with online, blended with projects and what have you. We're doing a lot of that at the Harvard Business School. So I think I would like to listen and learn where we are on that. And I heard that issue from students. Now then, I guess the question for the faculty and the provost is how, what's the appropriate response to those? And there are tensions, these are balances, these are tricky issues. So there aren't simple answers, but I think it's time to get going to them, and that's what I would like to poke around on and listen and learn from.
Just wanted to press the rest there. Can you take us through today, this decision? Was it kind of made as you walked in the room today, and how the decision evolved, and then kind of that process, what happened today?
Well, I think it's been a long, interactive process, in particular for three of us that were on the search committee, and worked with the search committee to recommend the finalists, to being actively involved at both watching and participating in town halls, and heard from all the regions that they did that, to the interview today, that also along the last week, we've received significant input from the faculty, from the students, from professional and scientific staff, and also from the greater Iowa community. And I think you try to process all of that, and you try to think, what is the best leader for all those constituency groups? And what is the best leader to try and take the university forward in a much larger, greater way? And back to, I think we're here to make a difference. We're here to make sure that the public universities in Iowa get better and continue to improve, and the research becomes more dynamic, in particular with the 2 large AAU schools. And so I think all that went into the process, and I think, as you were aware, you know, it was about an hour-and-a-half discussion amongst the choice of the different 4 candidates. And I think the board consistently visited about, we asked for diversity in the candidate pool, and we got that. And the campus saw that, and at the end of the day, we made the decisions for what I mentioned. At least I did.
What was it, a quick decision? I mean, I know it's an hour and a half, but were you in consensus right away, or did it take a little while to evolve? Can you just kind of talk about what took place during that hour?
Well, one, it's an executive session, so those discussions should stay there on the various candidates. But we had a discussion around all those issues that I just mentioned about all 4 candidates and what the board and individual board members' perspective is, which is why we discussed it for an hour and a half.
When you talk about the diversity of the pool and different members of the search committee were said to go out and recruit folks, I'm just curious, Mr. Harreld, how did you end up finding this position? Were you recruited, or did you just find it and apply on your own?
No, some people on the search committee had reached out to me and asked whether I might have an interest. I should actually back up. I think someone else who is a president of a major university, I think, threw my name possibly into the hopper. And then the search committee reached out to me and asked how interested I was. As I said the other day, and I think the Board of Regents, and I've certainly been completely open with all the members of the community. I struggled with that for the reasons that I have talked about, which is I haven't lived most of my career inside of academia. I haven't had significant administrative role in a major university. On the other hand, and how I finally got to the point of getting comfortable with it, I have confronted major strategic headwinds in major organizations. I think this industry has got a number of those. And I've also tried to actually figure out ways in other organizations to navigate through those, and at the same time build a collaborative team to attack them and continue to take the organization better. So I kind of looked at those issues and said, while I am a little different, I think I have a lot of the skills that are going to be necessary for success at this institution. And that's it. I'm sorry.
I didn't hear if you addressed this during the, forgive me if you did, but what's your view on athletics and its role with this university?
Yeah, I've addressed it several times. I think it is a glue that binds, and it's very, very important. And that goes through, I can spend a lot of time at different levels. One is, I think it was the Greeks who actually said that athletics are a portion of the body and the mind and the spirit. And I think athletics and the role of athletics is very, very important in that spirit. So it's in the context of an institution like that, having a sense of the body and athletics and competition and learning not only how to be a good leader, but also a great follower. There are a set of wonderful things that comes from high-level athletics as well as intramural, as well as just fun on the side. And I think that's a major piece of that. Then you get to the major, I suspect we're now in the question, the spirit of your question is the major Division I, go Iowa here. As we start the new season, and that is now even more important and plays even a bigger role because it's actually the glue that binds in many ways and brings with tradition and alumni and brings them back. I suspect they'll start pouring in here in the next 24 hours for the first game of the season, and it's a wonderful spirit that created across the community, and that's needs to get continued. It's part of who we are, and I'll do all I can to support it. I got to tell you, they don't need me on the sidelines coaching, though. So part of my role is just make sure we continue to get the right people over that.
If I can follow up,
Please.
There's a lot of debate out there, too, as to whether athletics can get better at this university.
Yeah.
What's your role in
Well, I think it's to ask what I can do. I ask the people that run that, because I don't think they need me kibitzing, even though there are a lot of people out there on the online kibitzing. I know there's some frustration with last season. I think there's a lot of enthusiasm for this year. We got a new junior quarterback with CJ. I think he's going to bring some great things to the team. But I think I'm a cheerleader here. And if Gary and the coach and what have you bring various issues forward to me, I'm listening and try to figure out how I can help them and support them. Yes, ma'am.
An area of concern, I know there was an article talking about how it's going to be several less thousand this year expected than, I think it was in 12 years or something. Is that something you're working toward, building back up that camaraderie here?
I've seen that. I haven't done any. This is like minute one. I suspect if you're raising it, it's an issue, but I have no source of that, and I'm not going to cold call Gary, who's in the back of the room here. But yeah, I suspect it's an issue. But you know, winning helps on these sorts of things, right? Yeah.
How did you come across the $590,000 a year? That's significantly more than Sally Mason was making.
Well, I think what we did is look around the country in terms of similar size institutions, and also looked at what Iowa State University's president's getting paid. And this is a larger institution, a more complex institution that also includes the hospital, which is why we came to the conclusion that the pay should be higher than what we pay the president of Iowa State University here at the beginning, and that's how we came to that.
When you were talking about the search process, you said there were 12 people interviewed, and before they had said 9 interviewed for those airport interviews.
Yes, and there were some reports as to who the 9 were, and that was confidential, and none of those 9 printed in the paper were candidates interviewed in Chicago, and so there were 12 interviewed in Chicago.
I was wondering, Mr. Harreld, have you ever been to Iowa or this campus before in the last few days?
Oh, absolutely. I've been here several times, not just in this year, but I've been here many, many times. In fact, I first met our current governor many years ago out here working with a startup, and he happened to pop in, and so yeah, I grew up in the Midwest, didn't grow up in Iowa, but I went to Midwest Big Ten school. I've been here for athletic events. Yes.
What startup were you?
You know, I can't, and I was talking to the governor the other day as he was trying to make sure I understand his support for the whole process. And we were both joking that we're now getting of an age we couldn't remember. I still can't. I've been actually gone online. I thought it was a retail store system software company because of what I was doing at the time. And if anybody out there in Iowa can help me remember having met with me for several hours when I was with IBM and the governor popped in, please ping me, because I would love to reach out and shake your hand again and reacquaint. But I cannot remember. That's life.
Not all universities need the same amount of state appropriations. Maybe they're bringing in more fundraising, that sort of thing. That external funding for research is important to kind of supplement state funding. How do you balance the teaching versus research requirements?
Well, I think they're both important, and I don't think there's a broad general rule about what the balance is. By the way, I think I bristle a little bit that we actually raise money in research and pass it over to, I think if the people who we're doing research with got the sense that that's what we were doing, they wouldn't like it. And so I think both of those have their own set of economics here. I think it's different by area. There's a different balance in the medical area. There's a different balance in liberal arts and legal and what have you. So I think we need, and then there's a different balance between faculty members, having seen that in my old venue at Harvard. And so I think that rather than just the aggregate numbers, it's getting down underneath and trying to figure out, where are the opportunities. And so that even my blanket notion that I sense we need more senior faculty teaching is actually, needs to drop several layers lower and really look at it and peel it back. All I was really trying to do at that point was to paint a I was asked to paint a vision, and I actually said it's more of a sketch, and now let's fill it in. And so stay tuned. Thank you.
President Robillard, I'd just like to hear from you what you think, Mr. Harreld's qualifications and what he brings to the table.
Well, I think, first of all, I want to just take the opportunity to thank the people on the search committee who really worked extremely hard to, over the last 5 months, really to identify candidates, review them, and interview them. I think Bruce Harreld will bring a tremendous value to the university. It's a breath of fresh air in many respects. He will help us in terms of improving our research, improving the education, improving scholarship, improving mentoring. And I think we are really on the path to grow a lot faster than we were previously. And I think this is great for the university, it's great for the state, and honestly, it's great for the country.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.